Hi girls, since we lost the recording in ECU conference, so I decided to create a short video on what we have learned tonight, which is instructional design week 7 lesson 2 on developing assessment instruments. Okay, here goes. So prior knowledge are all these things that you have learned yesterday, which was on assessment item, and the assessment item should match the performance or behavior described in the objective. Second point is learner-centered assessment is linked very closely to the traditional notion of criterion referenced tests. And the other point is that we have discussed 4 different types of criterion reference tests, and these tests actually fit into the design process. So they are entry behaviors test, pre-test, practice test, and post-test. Apart from that, we have also looked at possible test items, and for every single one of this, okay, you can actually use either essay, fill in the blanks, completion, multiple choice, matching, product checklist, or live performance checklist. Now, since we're using Dick and Carey reference book, so they actually listed several criteria that you should consider when writing test items, which have been covered in lesson 1. They are goal-centered criteria, learner-centered criteria, context-centered criteria, and assessment-centered criteria. So the lesson outcomes for tonight's online class are, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to, when given a variety of objectives, write criterion referenced, objective-style test items that meet quality criteria in all 4 categories. The 4 categories are the entry, behavior test, pre-test, practice test, and post-test. Okay, next, develop instructions for product development, live performance, and attitude assessments. Develop rubrics for evaluating learners' work. So this is the main part of this chapter, which is developing. And next is you evaluate your instructional goals, subordinate skills, learner and context analysis, performance objectives, and criterion reference test items for congruence. Okay, right, this is Dick and Carey systems approach model for designing instruction, which we have been using since week 1. So we have completed this section, and we are now here developing assessment instruments. Alright, background. What you have gone through for the past 6 weeks were all this: assess your needs, write an instructional goal statement. I've already put up a link to a very good video which explains how to write goal statement very easily, so you can redo your goal statement. Analyze your goal to identify goal steps, sub-steps, subordinate skills, and entry behaviors or interest skills. Analyze the learner's performance and also learning context. And write objectives, which we did last week, for each of the skills in your instructional analysis. And the last one, which is this week's lecture, is looking at developing assessment instruments. Okay, so how many items should you have? Okay, we do ask this question when we want to start writing assessment instruments. So how many items are necessary to achieve mastery of an objective? Okay, if there's only 1 item, then you just write 1 item, and if there are 2 or 3 items, then yes, you have to write 2 or 3 items to show that your students have already achieved the mastery of an objective that you set. Take this for an example. A second grade student may be asked to demonstrate his mastery of an arithmetic rule by means of the item. So question is 3m plus 2m equals to 25. So what is m? Okay, so what we can see here is that the purpose of assessment would be to determine if student could perform a class of arithmetic operations similar to this. We want to see whether he or she is able to perform this single one. Alright, so generally items of the same type and class would be employed to ensure the reliability of the results. So instead of having just one question, 3m plus 2m and what is m, 3m plus 2m equals to 10 and what is m, then you can have 2 or 3 other questions, similar questions, but using different numbers. Okay, so you change the parameters so that you would be able to see whether the students can achieve that particular objective. Okay, again, on any single item, a student may make a correct response because he or she has seen the correct response before, or perhaps has just made a good guess. Okay, this happens when you use multiple choice question. In this case, several items may be warranted. That means you may have to do or to create or to develop, okay, several items of similar level, so that the students can achieve the objective set for them. With some assessment items, though, guessing is not something that could be rewarded. So try not to repeat the same question, so that your students can actually think and answer on their own and not taking guesses. Another possibility is that a single item may be missed because the student has been misled by some confusing characteristic of the item or has simply made a stupid mistake. So it could be two things. If the student cannot answer the question, it could be due to your assessment instrument, your directive, or the question itself is misleading, or it's just a mistake made on the part of the student. Okay, it is essential to keep in mind that no matter how many items are created for an objective, the conclusion aimed for should not be how many did they get correct, but rather does the number correct indicate mastery of the objective. So if there are 3 questions, your students manage to get all 3 correct answers, then it shows that they have mastered the objective. Also keep in mind that while 2 items may be better than 1, it may also yield a 50-50 result with the student getting 1 right and 1 wrong. Okay, so if you have 2 items, then yes, that would happen. So it is advisable for you to actually develop 3 instead of 2, as Gagne suggested here. Having 3 items in this case instead of 2, as 2 out of 3 provides a better means of making a reliable decision about mastery. So if the student managed to answer 2 out of 3 correct, give 2 correct answers out of 3, then he has mastered the objective. Assessment of performances, products, and attitudes. Some intellectual skills, such as psychomotor and attitudinal skills, they cannot be assessed using common objective type test items or multiple choice items. Okay, so they required either creation of some type of product or performance of some sort, and these performances need to be assessed using either evaluation or observation instrument. Normally we use observation instrument. So Dick and Carey suggest that you provide guidance during the learning activities and construct a rubric to assist in the evaluation of the performance or product. Okay, so for attitudes, it's not directly measured. The best way is to assess attitudes through observation. During observation, learners are given a choice to behave according to their attitudes. If you observe a performance and the learners know that they're being observed and that they tell you they won't be able to show their true attitudes, then you have an option to actually use questionnaire or open-ended essay questions. Much care should be taken when constructing such tests. So please do not give your students leading questions. For example, do you like chocolates, don't you? Okay, so that kind of leading question is a big no. Okay, so you have to come up with your clarifying or probing questions. Okay, the type of questions I will discuss with you once you're back from your Singapore trip and your semester break. Okay, so next is the results will not tell you how they would act when faced in a real world situation. Okay, Dick and Carrie here make the following suggestions regarding the development of these types of assessment instruments. So first you need to write the directions, and second, develop the instrument. So for writing directions, directions for performance and products should clearly describe what is expected of the learners. You can't have them when you ask them to produce a manuscript or a dialogue and they produce something else. Okay, so you should include any special conditions. So yes, if they have to buy stuff from hardware stores, so you have to put that in as well. In some situations you may want to provide no guidance, so it depends. Like for example, dribbling basketball in the basketball court, you don't have to come up with a handout. Okay, even though you do have to come up with a checklist to check and to observe whether the students can dribble the basketball on the basketball court. Developing the instruments, Dick and Carrie actually offers or suggests 5 steps when assessing performances, products, or attitudes. So the first one is identify the elements to be evaluated, and it must be taken directly from the behaviors and criteria included in your objectives. These elements you selected should be able to be observed during the performance. So step 2, paraphrase each element. Step 3, sequence the elements on the instrument. For example, here if you're creating an instrument to help assess the changing of a tire, you should not put tightens lug nuts on new tire at the top of the list. Okay, step 4, select the type of judgment to be made. Usually we use checklists, rating scales, or frequency counts, and as you can see here, checklists provide a simple yes or no, rating scales in between, right? And frequency counts indicate the highest number of a certain criteria or element that the learner displays. Fifth is determine how the instrument will be scored. Either you use a checklist or rating scales or frequency counts. Portfolio, some of you have done portfolio before in your secondary school. So portfolios are actually collections of work that together represent learners' achievements over an extended period of time. It could be a month, it could be 2 months, and so on and so forth. This could include tests, products, performances, essays, or anything else related to the goals of the portfolio. Always ask yourself, why do you need portfolio? And can you do without a portfolio? Why do you need a portfolio? Okay, so they allow you to assess learners' work as well as their growth during the process. If you don't assess the growth of your student during that process, better not do portfolio. Okay, so here the portfolio must be related to specific goals and objectives. So if in your goals and objectives stated that they can actually do this, then yes, by all means. Okay, you can read this because I'm putting it up in Edmodo. Alright, I've gone through this. I'm running out of time right now because it's just 15 minutes using screencast. Okay, so read up on the last part of this. If you have any questions, you can always post it in Edmodo. Okay, so we have gone through this. Which one is good and which one is not. Okay, so I think that's it.